Hello, and welcome back to another installment of Meeple Empire. I'm JL, and this is Palmer, and we're back after a mini hiatus thanks to Rhode Island Comic Con, sickness, scheduling conflicts, and Palmer being Palmer. Alternatively, we've spent some time on Rolling Outlaw, plug to Rolling Outlaw Games, and we've looked at some Kickstarters such as Bar Pig, and what was the other one? I forget the name of it.
Yeah, I don't.
Another card game, which was
In something or other.
in something or other. Before we get kicked off for this week, just want to throw out a shout to What Up News. What Up People News.
What up?
What up, people? We will be guest hosting. We, as in, I mean, I will be guest hosting and interviewing with them tomorrow. So this better get up tonight so we can get that information out to the public.
In a bind.
In a bind was the other. And I will be in a bind with What Up People News tomorrow.
That was a horrible segue.
Yeah, you know, we were trying. We're going to do a quick segment today. Try to get this quick and easy. And we're going to go straight into TV and cinema and talk Justice League. So, DC fanboy yourself. Justice League. Thoughts, feelings. How many times have you seen it? Did it give you the warm and fuzzies?
Look, I don't want to oversell it, but Justice League is quite easily the greatest achievement mankind has ever done.
If by mankind you mean the DC universe?
No.
Maybe.
All of mankind. All of mankind. It goes Justice League, probably electricity, I guess the wheel.
Anything to justify these statements.
I mean, you saw the movie.
I did see the movie, and as someone who enjoys superhero movies for what they are, I really went into this film with the smallest of expectations. If we recall in a previous episode before the movie released, we had talked about the flashback when they had released it, and I called it. That wasn't actually a flashback. That was going to be Superman having some part in this film. And, yeah, well, you know, you obviously played fucking dumb. So you get Superman in it. The merits of the film, I will go ahead and say that this is probably
The greatest film of all time? I agree.
This was what I found to be the most enjoyable superhero film to see in theaters. There was equal parts cinematic achievements, equal parts humor where it needed to be. When the credits first rolled, I didn't find myself being exhausted and just trying to find the door. Like when the credits began to run and you would build up to that first sequence, you found yourself going, wow, it's over already?
Yeah.
You know, which I think that's a home run, that the film itself, you know, I granted they cut down on the runtime, but the film never drug along in that way. I feel that Gal Gadot was more comfortable in her role. You know, I think cinematically she performed a lot better. And not that she had a bad performance of Wonder Woman, because I thought Wonder Woman was an excellent achievement in and of itself. I just think that her performance was stronger.
Okay.
In Justice League. Everyone knows I can't stand Superman. I still can't stand Superman. So
Because you hate
he was negligible. Say what you will about Batfleck. For the end of life Batman, before he transitions the torch, I really think Batfleck embodies everything I visualized end of life Batman to be. I think he nails it. I don't mind this Alfred. I prefer Michael Caine, but this Alfred does a great job. The Flash, again, I don't have much of I don't have the intimacy with the core content that you do, but I think the Flash, my expectations of him as a superhero, I didn't find him being as much of a jokester, and that may not be true. In the comics, he may be, Barry Allen may be, have a humorous tinge to him. Not that took away. I think he did well for what he had to do. I think the humor helped push along some of the portions of the film where it otherwise could have been bland or drug on a bit. Cyborg is just, 10 or 15 question marks, one right after another. He left you with just enough to take him in and accept him. He left you longing to find out more about him. I've said this before, like, who cares about Aquaman? At least before this film. And now that he's taken this role and, I think he made something out of it. I enjoyed the Aquaman aesthetic. Mm-hmm. I have to say probably my favorite non-combat part of the film was actually when he sits on the lasso and then he just starts spewing forth. And you don't really get it, but you know something's wrong, and then you have that moment where he pulls the lasso out. Like, I really enjoyed that part. And although I've seen a lot of people say that Steppenwolf as a villain was negligible, I think he was a perfect villain. I think he was a great villain for a film to establish all of them coming together.
Yeah. As far as I've heard the argument on Steppenwolf, and I don't buy it. The character has backstory, and while they don't delve too far down the rabbit hole that is the fourth world, they give you enough of his backstory for him not to just be a bland villain, which is fine because aside from... Like, I'm not even that high on Steppenwolf, but aside from, like, Darkseid, I absolutely hate the fourth world. I hate the New Gods. I hate that whole Jack Kirby, just everything. He's not a good writer, and he's not a good storyteller. You can make the argument that he's a decent enough artist who, I don't care what anyone says, separate out your love for the idea of Jack Kirby that's been kind of beaten into you. Jack Kirby in today's world doesn't sell and is not remotely liked. Now, I'm not saying people do not like him. I'm saying if he was around, if he started his career today without all the trappings of time and being there at the beginning of the Marvel universe, he's not renowned, and he's generally not well liked. Because there are people who do his style and they just don't sell because his style does not sell today. But that aside, I don't like the fourth world stuff. It's way too bogged down in mythology, and the fact that they were able to zip through that and give me a 2-hour movie was very good. I would love to see more of this movie, but I like the ability to go in there and just give me a 2-hour movie. Not every superhero movie and not every movie has to be 2.5 hours to 3 hours long. I don't mind breezy movies. What I would like is to have more stuff like Batman and Superman where if you cut it down and give me a good movie that then makes me go, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing another half hour, 45 minutes of this, and then give me that longer version as a special feature on a disc. Then I'm good. I'm good either way. Like, I would like to see a longer version of this movie, and I know it exists. But I was fine. I was kind of fine with the 2-hour version. There's some stuff that is obvious Joss Whedon stuff that I hope gets rectified in a longer version. Um, there were a couple obvious scenes that were from reshoots where the special effects weren't completely 100% polished. Um, but that being said, I went in to see Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. While this movie doesn't give me that for the first time, because that was in Batman versus Superman, this gave me 3 surprises in Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash. I already have Flash on TV, so I didn't really need another Flash. This Flash gives me something different. While, yes, he does not fit into the Barry Allen personality, we already have the Barry Allen personality in the Flash TV show. I didn't need another Barry Allen personality. I'm glad they went in a different direction and it worked with Ezra Miller. Cyborg, I didn't care about. Never cared about. He's always he's been the Teen Titan that Jeff Johns really liked, so he got graduated to the Justice League.
Oh yeah.
But he was good in this movie. I actually don't mind now saying, you know what, they're doing a solo Cyborg movie. I want to see what it's about. And Aquaman, Jason Momoa just knocked it out of the park. He was great. I just want to see him lose his hand so he has the fish hook. Yeah. But I mean, that being said, I thought the story was good for the time frame. It set up another movie down the road well, and I feel like the villain has motivation and has enough substance that it's not just generic villain, number 3 in a Marvel movie.
Okay, so 2 things I have to take out of this. One, I think was probably an error in editing, but the second is a strong curiosity. First, what do you think of Lois Lane getting out of the car? Lois Lane getting out of the car and calling him by his name with civilians around.
I honestly don't remember that part, so I can't comment on it. In my mind, I don't think she says it loudly enough that anyone would hear it. So without going back and rewatching that scene, I would have to say, from what I remember, I don't remember her shouting it enough that it would be audible past, because he's Superman. You don't need to talk in even a normal register for him to hear you.
Second thing being is when they go through that little cut scene where they talk about the history of the boxes.
Yes.
They go through and you clearly see the people of man, but you also see the Green Lantern Corps. What do you think we're gonna see the Green Lantern Corps in the future included? And or do you think there will be anything that delves a little bit deeper into the past with the people of man? Because my takeaway from that was more King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table is what we saw.
Yeah. I don't know if you'll see anything more than that. Maybe if they do a Green Lantern movie, if they reference it, if that was a pivotal moment for the Corps, then it's a possibility. The fact that we don't really have lanterns running around nor referenced would almost make me believe that the Corps on Earth is no longer. So maybe Hal's not around. So that would be interesting. But I don't see them revisiting it because they're already way past that point. I mean, they talked about it a little bit in Wonder Woman, and now this. I don't need it. Maybe if it ties into when they decide to do Darkseid, you get a little more of a scene there. But I was fine with what I had.
Okay, so I mean, to tie up Justice League, I highly recommend it. Even for people who aren't necessarily superhero fans, I think as a standalone, it's an enjoyable experience. And I think the runtime makes it enjoyable and accessible to all audiences.
Yeah. And I mean, if you didn't see any of the other movies, you can kind of go into it cold. Because, I mean, really the only thing is Superman's dead. And they tell you that right at the beginning. So you don't really need a whole hell of a lot to go into it. If you hadn't seen Batman vs. Superman, if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, you can still kind of bring someone to it. And they won't, they shouldn't have too hard of a time keeping up.
Okay, so originally I just wanted to cut today enjoying our Justice League talk, but something has fluttered along the interwebs that just keeps nagging away at me. And in this instance, you have a leg up on me, only because I won't delve into it unless I have all 4 parts, and unfortunately I forgot to set the DVR for the Legends of Tomorrow. And that would be the community standing behind the fact that they believe, what was it, Crisis Earth?
Yep.
Which is the crossover miniseries that transcends Supergirl, Arrow, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. Saying that they were able to achieve a better team up and a better storytelling on cable television than they were able to achieve in Hollywood with these A-list actors. A, what is your opinion? Because I know you've seen the full 4 episodes of the crossover.
Yeah.
And B, do you give any merit to that statement, or can you defend against it?
I see the argument. However, one of the things that's looked over is this is the second full crossover they've done. This is the second 4-show crossover they've done.
Yes, because they did one that included Martian Manhunter, I believe. Wasn't it?
I don't remember if he was there last year, but this is the first. This is the second year that they've done a 4-show crossover. Last year, aside from doing the 4-show crossover, there was also a Supergirl Flash crossover. The previous year, there was a Supergirl Flash crossover. There was a Flash Green Arrow crossover. Flash and Green Arrow have been crossing over since Flash started 4 or 5 years ago now. And they've had at least one episode with the Flash crossing over on Supergirl, or with Supergirl, for all 3 of Supergirl's years, and the last 2 has been everyone. So they've had time to work out the kinks. They've had the chance. The actors know each other and have worked with each other a lot more than the Justice League has. I mean, if you look at it, all 3 don't even, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, this is the second movie they're in together. Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman. If you want to make the argument that they were in Batman vs. Superman, they didn't share any scenes with anybody, so there's no real gelling there. And also, this is supposed to be them all coming together for the first time. If they gel really well right off the set, it doesn't ring true.
Yeah.
So that being said, while I really liked Crisis, and it was so much better than last year's, I felt it was about an hour too long. It was an episode too long. I felt the second hour of the first night dragged a bit, and it was mainly because instead of really propelling the story forward, they had to kind of drag their feet because they still had 2 hours to fill.
Well, the Arrow is the most notable series for including a lot of build-up and a lot of flashbacks. It's almost like a given for the storytelling style for the Green Arrow.
Yeah, but this crossover, one of the things the crossover I felt did better this year, but it can still be worked upon, is last year it felt like 3 individual shows, because it didn't really start until the end of the Supergirl, so I'm not counting that episode. it felt like three separate shows that had a storyline kind of flitter through. This time, it felt like a story with those characters of four shows, and never really got weighed down by feeling like one show.
Okay.
Because it shouldn't. It should be on its own crossover that just has these characters.
Okay.
The only time it really feels very showy is Legends of Tomorrow, and that's mainly because, like, that's when they just have every single person ever on Legends of Tomorrow show up. What I would like to see next year, and I understand why it's 2 nights, and I understand why it's 4 hours, because you have the 4 shows, and you want it to bridge in all those shows. I would really like next year, just give me one night, just give me a 3-hour story. You know, put the rest of the shows off for a week if you need to, and you would in order to get those things done. But you know what? Do it right at, like, have the mid-season finales of all the shows, and then the following week give me one special 3-hour movie, because with commercials in that, it's about a 2.5-hour movie at that point, or a 2-hour movie at that point. And I think you might have a better formula, because 4 hours spread across 2 nights isn't that bad, but it just feels like it takes a lot to make a 4-hour thing work well without feeling a slowdown. And so I would like to just see them tighten it up. Just give me one storyline of 3 hours. Probably be easier to film.
I can dig it. I can definitely get behind that. So would you endorse this Crisis crossover?
Yeah, it was good. I don't love it to the extent that everyone else seemed to love it, and gloss over some of the issues. But it was infinitely better than last season's crossover, because this felt like a story that needed all of them, and that felt kind of organic rather than slithering through shows. However, I said this to my friend when we were watching it, and I'll say it every day until my dying day. The biggest thing I disliked about this was when they were explaining Earth X, and Wells is like, well, they're like, you know, they're trying to explain to somebody who didn't know. They're like, there are 52 Earths. There are 52 dimensions in the multiverse, and the 52 has a significant meaning in the DC universe. And Wells is like, yes, there are 52. However, there's also a 53rd one, which they could have just made Earth X part of the 52. Like, I didn't see the need to be like, yes, there's 52 Earths plus one.
I can dig it. Like I said, I'm hoping to have a little bit more feedback on that. Once I get a chance to view. We have a friend that's going to bring me in a copy of that last show, and once I got that, I'll binge them all in order so I can take the full end of it. But that's pretty much what we got for you today. This should be up tonight. Again, if you want to see more of me ramble and go off on a tangent, check out What Up People News tomorrow. Check out Aaron Casey. He's one of the producers. I'm JR. This is Palma saying thank you for checking out Meeple Empire, and we'll catch you next time.